Assalamu alaikum. I am Ariba Shehzadi and you are watching Balochistan Pulse. Pakistan has been grappling with intense terror attacks on its western front, particularly the KPK, and we all know from where it is coming. It has grown into very intense actions recently, and to have a meaningful discussion on it, statistic based, fact based discussion on it, we have with us Ambassador of Pakistan to Afghanistan, Mansoor Ahmad Khan Sahab. Thank you so much for taking time out to be with us, sir. Assalamu alaikum and very welcome to our show.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to join your show.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, we know it all did not grew up in a flash. So, can you please, for the audience, trace it back to the trigger point? What was the trigger point? Why it all started?
The wave of terrorism came to Pakistan uh, with this kind of intensity in after 2001 US and NATO invasion of Afghanistan, or US and NATO forces being stationed in Afghanistan. And Afghan Taliban, who were moved out of power by the US and NATO forces presence in Afghanistan, you know, they scattered into Pakistan-Afghanistan border region because it's a porous border. You know that it borders both our important provinces of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan, and people living along the border are mostly Pashtuns on both sides. So there is a lot of lot of spaces are available for any kind of insurgency or any kind of jihad that also took place in 1980s when Soviet forces were occupying. At that time, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan also was founded in 2007, and was also a reaction of US and NATO forces presence and also Pakistan's operations in tribal areas and in the border area between Pakistan and Afghanistan, which affected these tribes who have been living in these border areas for centuries, and they have their life was disrupted, and as a result of drone warfare and all that, in those 2 decades, lot of reaction came from these groups like TTP, who were acting in support of Tehreek-e-Taliban Afghanistan. When Tehreek-e-Taliban Afghanistan finally came into power after US and NATO withdrew, so Pakistan's expectation was that now, since no foreign forces are there, the country of Afghanistan has no foreign forces. Afghanistan has been now, in terms of Afghan Taliban's insurgency, they can say that it has been liberated. So there is now the region would return to a peaceful interaction, Pakistan and Afghanistan in particular. But unfortunately, that did not happen because the Tehreek-e-Taliban Afghanistan, and on the other hand, with Balochistan's border BLA, they have an agenda which, through their agenda, through their objectives and motives, they continue to undertake terrorist incidents in Pakistan, either in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa or in various parts of Balochistan, not only targeting Pakistani citizens, but also have been targeting Chinese professionals who have been working on different projects relating to CBEC or other Pakistan-China cooperation projects. So in last 3 years, this wave of terrorism has increased, and in Pakistan has been taking it up with the Afghan side, with Afghan Taliban, like it was taking it up with previous governments. And when I was there as ambassador from 2020 to 2022, after Taliban takeover, we very strongly took it up with Afghan Taliban government there. But for Pakistan, those kind of outcomes have not been possible, where there was some let up in incidents of terrorism. And last week we saw the terrorist incidents, targeting our security officials, our civilians, have increased, in their intensity, in their momentum. So I think that then led to what we are seeing now, an escalation around Pakistan, Afghanistan.
So, if you particularly talk about these weekend clashes and the clashes that are still ongoing on the border, which point you identify has triggered these clashes, these particular which has been happening for past 4 days?
I think although Pakistan has officially not claimed or not owned any kind of military strikes or hot pursuits inside Afghanistan, but we have seen that in last 3 years at several points these kind of incidents have taken place where since Pakistan has a concern, Pakistan claims that we have intelligence that TTP forces or TTP fighters or similarly forces relating to Majid Brigade or forces related to BLA are present in on the Afghan side, and Pakistan often takes actions. Pakistan has at times taken actions as an exception. It is not a normal routine, but as an exception there. And I think as a result of some actions which were reported last week or so, in these last week or 10 days, I think then Afghan side also reacted, and Afghan side responded with attacks on Pakistani posts, and it also coincided with Afghan foreign minister, as in his diplomatic initiative undertaking a visit to India. Pakistan and India have been in a conflict, and earlier this year, in May 2025, we had serious clashes with Indians, and Pakistan had actually inflicted a lot of damage on the Indian forces in that encounter. So this all has unfortunately widened. Now, how the two countries will go towards from this, already there is an escalation. So, how the two countries will go from escalation to de-escalation, and from de-escalation to some kind of dialogue, and then for normalization of their bilateral relations, because the relationship is important for both countries. It is a 2,600-kilometer long border, and
Yeah.
such escalation cannot continue indefinitely. So, I think both
Yes.
sides will
Yeah, there's no
work out.
doubt that relationship is very important. But as you mentioned before, that we have calculated at the time of US withdrawal from the Afghanistan that we would be using our relations with Afghanistan as a strategic depth against the India, and it would be helpful for us to maintain strategic and regional stability. So, do you think that our assessment was wrong, or it was miscalculated, or did we have any plan B if it did not work in that way, because it did not work what we assessed of it?
Actually, Pakistan's assessment was not to have any strategic depth. Pakistan's assessment was that during the presence of US and NATO forces, the situation has remained such that uh, India has invested a lot on its assets in Afghanistan along Pakistan border, whether it was TTP, whether it was Majid Brigade, whether it was
So
also.
did that happen during the presence of US in Afghanistan?
Yes, this has been because there has been a Pakistan has been uh, repeatedly taking it up this matter with Afghan government, previous Afghan governments of President Hamid Karzai and President Ashraf Ghani, and Pakistan had also been taking it up with the US and NATO forces. I had served in Afghanistan from 2009 to 12 also earlier, and then I was also heading Afghan desk in the Afghan ministry later on. And I also served in the meantime as Deputy High Commissioner in India. So this was a recurring issue. This was a continuing issue. And yes, intensity was not of TTP's attacks and BLA's attacks were not which we are witnessing today or which we are suffering today. But the border was volatile, and India had actually invested a lot in collaboration with the Afghan intelligence of that time, Afghan security and intelligence departments of that time. India had invested a lot, and that is what Pakistan has been claiming, and Pakistan has been bringing it to the notice of international community, international institutions, that look, with the presence of such kind of assets who can bring cross-border terrorism into Pakistan, it will be very difficult for Pakistan to control or to contain, control, to eliminate terrorism. And that is why after 2021, when Afghan Taliban came into power, Pakistan talked to them. Again, I was there when our security officials had discussions with Afghan Taliban, and Afghan Taliban actually asked us to talk to TTP. So some talks are also held with TTP, between security officials and TTP, to find out a way forward. But no solution or no compromise could be worked out, and then the talks discontinued and ceasefire ended. And then we are seeing for last 3 years there is no let-up actually in terrorism, and it is also causing difficulty for Pakistan that if terrorism is taking place at such a scale, then how to have dialogue, diplomacy, and normalization of relations with Afghan Taliban government.
So, as you just mentioned about the Pakistan efforts to normalize the relationships or normalize this terrorism intensity on the borders and across the borders, and if we take the recent history in April, May, we were in relation, we were in coordination with the Afghanistan government. And even with the China's involvement, there were certain meetings held in Afghanistan. So, 3 to 4 months after we are saying this. So, is that kind of diplomacy was not done in the right way, or we were not able to convince them? How did it come to this point?
Yes, you are absolutely right that in April, May, and in the subsequent months, we were in touch with Afghan government, and China was actually, when we were having this escalation with Indian side, at that time, China was actually playing a very constructive role in terms of helping contacts between Pakistan and Afghanistan to reach some kind of understanding, and some understandings were reached. Some understandings were reached. We upgraded diplomatic relations. We also, agreed on so many other areas, and therefore, trade, transit, and other activities were agreed.
Okay, sir. Given the Mutaqi's presence in India and this recent unprovoked attack from the Afghanistan, how do you see it? Can we call it India-Afghanistan nexus?
The relationship between Pakistan, Afghanistan, and India, since Pakistan and India came into being after partition of Indian subcontinent, this has been this has triangular dimensions also. And whenever Pakistan-Afghanistan relationship is under some stress, it brings an opportunity for India and Afghanistan to play their own cards and to play their own relationship in such a way that it serves their interest, but it is contrary to or counter to Pakistan's interests. So, since Pakistan and Afghanistan in the last few months, as you had asked in the last question, were not able to agree on enough confidence building measures to counter terrorism, there was no let up in the terrorist activities of TTP, BLA, or other groups. So, as a result, there was a gap in engagement between Pakistan and Afghanistan despite these Chinese efforts. And as a result of these increasing gaps, Afghanistan at this moment, it attended the Moscow format, but with the Moscow format, they also planned a visit to India, which is the first formal visit by a Taliban foreign minister to India, which has been India in 2021 when US and NATO forces were withdrawing from Afghanistan. India had vacated the embassy.
Also, it's worth mentioning that India has just upgraded its mission to a full-fledged embassy. How do you see that?
Yeah. So during this mission now, India, it is also very interesting that from 2001 to from 2021, India had continued to describe Afghan Taliban as terrorists. And India was not in favor of even having any kind of talks at the international level as were held under Doha peace process with the Taliban. But now, because in the last 3-4 years, Pakistan-Afghanistan equation deteriorated significantly. So Indians thought, and Indians have taken advantage of, because they know that Taliban now are in control in Afghanistan, and therefore India should have.
Yes, sorry to cut you off, sir. Mutaki's presence in the India and then these recent attacks happening. Is there any coincidence in that we are seeing the massive attacks from the Afghanistan on the border? So can we say it a coincidence?
It is actually these have coincided. I would not say it is a coincidence, but they have the things have happened in such a way that these developments have coincided with each other. And the second thing is for normalization of Afghanistan-Pakistan relations. For last 50 years, normalization of Pakistan-Afghanistan relations has not taken place because the region is either in jihad or in civil war or in Taliban insurgency. So I think both these pillars of the relations.
So there are recent reports that there is a rebellion ongoing within the Afghanistan against the Taliban regime, and the Haqqanis and Kandahar group, there are disagreements between them. And a recent video surfaced where Sirajuddin Haqqani openly criticized the Kandahari Taliban to avoid taking credit of jihad against the Soviets and against the US. So you think there are possibilities that Haqqanis are going to take over and a regime change is coming?
My own view is that number one, Taliban are cautious or conscious that they the important for them, because it will be otherwise an existential threat for the government. And secondly, my view is that Pakistan should not become part of, if there is any there are any difference among within Taliban, or if there is any kind of any kind of activity that is taking place against Taliban inside Afghanistan. This is an internal issue of Afghanistan. Whatever happens inside Afghanistan, whatever type of government Afghans want for them, whatever kind of structure of administrative structure and constitutional structure Afghanistan wants for itself, Afghan people have to decide. Afghans have to settle this issue. Any country moving in and exploiting the differences or exploiting the situation would again create a bad blood between the two countries.
Yeah.
And there has also been a history of the past that Afghans say that Pakistan or other countries have been intervening in Afghanistan. So it is, in my view, better that Pakistan has to take a principled position. Asking Afghan Taliban that no terrorism should take place in Pakistan is a principled position for Pakistan.
Pakistan should not be going with the interference policies. How do you see, as you have served in Afghanistan, that common people see the Pakistan and Afghanistan relations? What are the sentiments of the common people in Afghanistan about Pakistan?
No, generally speaking, Pakistan and Afghan people in both countries, Pakistanis and Afghans, are very close to each other. There is a 2,600 kilometer long border. Tribes share commonality. Tribes living on either side have social, cultural, religious, linguistic, ethnic contexts, and they have very since centuries their relations have been very good. Now, what has happened in last 5 decades or so, since Afghan Jihad took place, and after that there was a civil war inside Afghanistan, then Taliban came into power, then US and NATO forces came and installed governments in Afghanistan. So in these 40, 50 years, particularly in the last 20, 25, 30 years, a lot of investment has been made, particularly by Indians, but also by some others, in an anti-Pakistan agenda. And because of that anti-Pakistan agenda, today you find negative views about Pakistan among Afghans. If you go to Afghanistan, you serve there, you find some negative views and these negative views are also of the same type as we were discussing the previous question.
Yes, sir. If we take a broader view, and the recent geopolitical tensions that Pakistan has faced, the Mike crisis with the India and Trump intervened. Trump brokered a ceasefire, and he is for sure a man who wants to take credit of all the ceasefire agreements anywhere in the world. So, do you see that he will likely intervene in this issue as well?
Yes, President Trump actually has always claimed that he is a man against wars. He wants to end the wars, and he has, been playing a leading role in ending many wars. Some have ended, some, are in the process. And recently, when at the occasion of, his visit to Middle East for signing the peace deal between Israel and Palestine for peace in Palestine, he made these remarks that another war has erupted between Pakistan and Afghanistan. He will look into the possibilities how to end it. Now it will have to be seen as to how President Trump, what kind of proposals President Trump has. But when US and NATO withdrew from Afghanistan, since then Afghan Taliban government has gradually been engaging with all the neighbors and the regional countries. At that time when US and NATO left, only 4 or 5 embassies were left in Kabul in Afghanistan. Now there are more than 15, 16 embassies back in Kabul. So Kabul is engaging with the region. Kabul is engaging with Middle Eastern countries. Kabul is engaging with China, Russia, all these, Turkey, all the regional countries, including the neighbors. US and European countries have been asking Afghanistan to take measures at political level, bring some political inclusivity in their government, address some terrorism-related issues, become part of counter-terrorism structures, and also human rights, women rights, education of girls. In the last 4 years, Afghan Taliban have not adequately responded to these demands, and that is also one of the reasons that why Afghan Taliban government is now in power for 4 years, but it has not been internationally recognized. They have not got UN seat, they have not got OIC seat, they are not being represented in SCO. So this is also important as to how Afghan Taliban government will handle these pressures. So we will have to see as to what happens. Any kind of military activity or any kind of insurgency or militancy against Afghan Taliban or any kind of new militancy, a new war in Afghanistan will not be in the interest of the region or in the interest of particularly Pakistan-Afghanistan border region. So I believe it would be ideal if the situation is addressed through dialogue, and all these issues of importance to Afghan people are also addressed in dialogue with Afghanistan and international.
Yes, that was also part of my conclusion question, that how do you see that Pakistan would now take it forward through the dialogue, but given the situation even of today on the Chaman border, unprovoked attacks are again happening and coming from the Afghanistan. So how do you see Pakistan is gonna take this?
Our effort should be that we should first try to go for de-escalation. And once de-escalation takes place, then we also should try to have a messaging with Afghanistan quietly that public rhetoric should be brought down. The media rhetoric, public rhetoric should be brought down so that the people on both sides get a message of returning back to stability. Once that happens, then Pakistan and Afghanistan ideally should engage with each other bilaterally without anyone's help, because we are the same people. It's our own relations, Pakistan and Afghanistan. So we need to talk to each other instead of asking for other parties.
Given that India's proxy is present there, would that be possible?
But an effort can be made that we can have bilateral engagement. We can send messaging. There are there are senior political figures who are respected in Afghanistan. Similarly, senior Afghan politicians who are respected in Pakistan. So some kind of diplomatic, even informal diplomatic engagement can be initiated. And then in parallel, then we should also try to seek the assistance of our friendly countries. Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, they have an important influence on Afghanistan. They have good relations with Pakistan also. And so they can be ready because all these countries also want to invest both in Pakistan as well as in Afghanistan in the mineral sector and other sectors. And then China still remains a very important player. China has deep interest in terms of stability in Afghanistan and then connectivity between Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Central Asia. China has invested a lot in CPEC, in BRI. So China would still, I mean, although the Chinese efforts, which were made earlier this year, a few months ago, have not translated into the benefits that were that all of us expected. But still, I think Pakistan should be effectively using Pakistan, Afghanistan, China trilateral becoming active again can be another good response to India-Afghanistan nexus.
Thank you so much, sir. It was such an insightful discussion, and your expertise on the Afghanistan-Pakistan relationships is highly commendable. Thank you so much, sir, for taking time to be with us. We'll see you again, inshallah. Inshallah.